I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The harder I want to hit you.
I'm happy because of being here today. Fuck you.
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal, remember? I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fucking shit. Fuck me in the fucking ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new movie review, which is the second entry in our review series, and that's going to be for none other than 1979's Rocky II, which is directed by Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, because Sylvester Stallone also did direct some films, and he actually directed this movie. But they're pretty much the first sequel to the series, so what is the plot of Rocky II? So, immediately after the ending of the last one, Rocky Balboa is enjoying life. He has a lovely wife, Adrian, a successful fight with Apollo Creed, and is able to enjoy the money he earned from the fight and a new endorsement deal. But, unfortunately, Rocky becomes embarrassed because he fails to complete an advert he got hired for, and ends up working a meatpacking company, and then ends up not keeping that job either. He believes that he'll no longer have a career as a boxer, but Apollo wants to rematch with Rocky to prove some hecklers and critics that he can beat Rocky. But can Rocky once again have a successful fight? Well, as for my reaction, I can say Rocky II, to me, is not much of a sequel per se, but honestly, it should be treated more as like the other half of the first movie, or let's say the epilogue. It picks up right from the ending of the first one, and shows Rocky now finally having the life he never thought he would have, but it doesn't last long because he ends up having to go for more struggles and gets called back for a rematch. So how was this film made? So, development of Rocky II began in 1977, after Stallone had completed a screenplay, but United Artists was reluctant to allow Stallone to direct after John G. Avildsen, the director of the first film, could not return. Stallone was eventually hired after refusing to allow the film to be made without him as director, and return of the rest of the cast got secured soon thereafter. Then filming the movie happened in 1978, and filming held primarily on location in Philadelphia, where Stallone had sustained several injuries. And the film got dedicated to the late Jane Oliver, who was Stallone's first agent. Then after the film was officially shot and completed, Rocky II would be theatrically released in the United States by United Artists on June 15th, 1979. And like the last one, well, okay, it didn't get as much critical acclaim as the first film did, but this movie, when it released, it still got generally positive reviews from critics for the characterization, the finale, and Stallone's performance in this movie. Once again, it made $200 million worldwide, $85 million North America, became the third highest grossing film in 1979 domestically, and second highest grossing worldwide. And of course, another sequel, Rocky III, which will be the next review, was released in 1982. So, there is that. Alright, so here are the good qualities in the story of Rocky II. So, as you all know, Rocky II starts off right where Rocky I left off. He went to the hospital, got surgery, and after further fighting, could damage his eye badly and make him go blind possibly. So Rocky decides he's going to settle down and marry Adrian and start making commercials with his newfound wealth. Then eventually Adrian gets pregnant, and unfortunately he's unable to read well, and it costs him his job making commercials, and so Rocky struggles to find another job, because he can't have experience elsewhere. Apollo Creed, on the other hand, is starting to get backlash from people for going 15 rounds with the guy who came off that street, and so he's now furious, and he wants to rematch, despite the fact they originally agreed they weren't going to rematch each other. Rocky decides that he has no choice but to fight again because he has nothing really else, and upsets Adrian due to the health risks he's probably going to face. The film succeeds mainly because of the fact that it does a great job continuing on Rocky's saga. Starting off right after the first one was a very clever move, and continuing the story was a very clever move, instead of just trying to repeat the story again. And it's an awesome follow-up. All the characters are further better developed. Apollo Creed in this one is shown way more. His character gets expanded way more, and you get to see what he is like more, and his personal life is more. And Carl Weathers, the late Carl Weathers, rest in peace once again, does great with Apollo Creed in this movie, and really plays the upset athlete at the media well. For this, because he was pretty much an unbeatable champion, and then Rocky came along. And then now he's facing the backlash, and now he has to try to prove his critics wrong and is forced back into a rematch by all these hecklers and critics that were mad that basically he nearly lost to some guy from the streets. Paulie does take a bit of a backseat in this one for the most part, but Adrian is a lot more significant in this film, especially why Rocky is so reluctant to get back in the ring. And Rocky 2, another thing, Rocky 2 actually does have a bit more comedy than the first. Like, yeah, did bits of like Rocky propose to his girlfriend at a zoo, or kind of like being on this happy montage with money, and trying to get a job because he has, but it can't because he has no education, and kind of a little bit also funny and kind of sad a bit how bad Rocky is at reading cue cards when talking about his press conference at Apollo. And like Rocky and Rocky 2 actually work well as one entire double feature. To the point where this was kind of the last of Rocky's struggles, because from Rocky 3 onward, Rocky becomes a lot more civilized. In a way, it pretty much has now kickstarted his career development from Rocky 1 and 2. Now, how do we start off the film? So, just right at the end of Rocky 1, Apollo Creed defended his title in a split decision against challenger Rocky Balboa. They got taken to the same hospital. Originally, they did agree that there would be no rematch, but Apollo wants to challenge Rocky again that night to prove that Rocky going to distance with him was a fluke. But Rocky doesn't want to, and he pretty much retires from professional boxing to start a new life with his girlfriend Adrian, who supports his choice, as do doctors, because they reveal that Rocky, if he does another fight, he'll require surgery for detached retina, a condition that could lead to permanent blindness. So in a private moment, Rocky goes to see Apollo recovering, asks whether Apollo gave his all in the fight, and Apollo confirms that he did. So in a way, it really cements that they're kind of rivals in a fight. They still have actually a bit of a respect for one another that develops throughout the rest of the series, and eventually does further develop into Rocky 3. Here, but this one, he's still kind of the opponent in this movie, while after this film, they would eventually become actual pals. Right there. So, Rocky 2 dives into a little more what Rocky himself is all about. From the first Rocky movie, he was really just kind of a loan shark collecting punk off the streets, and got luck. According to Paul, only really got lucky. And Rocky 2, he and Paul decide they have to rematch because some critics are wondering, he lost, so no, he won. No, he lost, he won. They want to prove them wrong. Whether the real winner in Fire of the World is. And Rocky marries Adrian and is now having a son with her. And one of the nice things is we get more in-depth to look into the life and personality of Apollo Creed, like I mentioned before. One of the things it does is Apollo Creed really was just in minor bits of the first film. This time around, he's actually more of a character. You see his family life right there, and yeah, family life that does play into the later films, and and you briefly see his son that you know is going to play a role in the spin-offs that would happen in decades. Right there. And so, but as far as the other characters really are only added kind of upon because, well, they're really well cultivated in the original. And once again, Stallone picks up and does his greatest at the unstoppable underdog Rocky Balboa, and has great chemistry once again with the love of his life, Adrian. Stallone manages to recapture everything you loved about the first one, the original, because he's the writer and director of this one as well. And you do kind of see a little less of the quirks that made Rocky the spectacular in the original. There, Stallone does a great job with the role again. Talia Shire, once again, does great as Adrian, whose romance with Rocky gets at full swing with their engagement, wedding, and pregnancy in this one. Shire's still so perfect as well, and they still once again have great chemistry with one another. Like she really is perfect for him, despite the rough around the edges as he is. And Burt Young returns as Paulie, the pessimistic and chronically miserable Paulie. His role is not as defined as it was in the first one, but he still does a great job supporting everyone around him. Paulie's an unmistakable quality about the Rocky films, and Young is perfectly well as Paulie. And Burgess Meredith returns as trainer Mickey, Rocky's mentor and father figure. Once again, another great mentor for Rocky, like he was in the first film. Meredith really adds an incredible experience to the series also as the perfect mentor. Some say there are some haters that say Rocky 2 is either the worst or second worst, but no, it's not. To me, it's the second best, and it's the best of the sequels. It's the second best film of the series, to me. Like, it really boasts the incredible tension of the first one, making you still feel the stuff you felt from the first film. You see Rocky almost crippled, like, not just physically, but emotionally, especially when Adrian goes in her coma. And Stallone gives some like emotional Oscar-worthy performance when he's visiting Adrian in the hospital, and also when she wakes up, and even when Mickey berates him and says he's a loser at some point. Like, all these difficult things in Rocky's path in this movie really test his willpower substantially, and he has somehow put them aside to focus on an important issue, and that's facing Apollo Creed once again. The part of the way Rocky's able to get through these problems, it comes from his own determination. A significant part comes from the support that other people in the community give him, and all the great efforts he's made into his celebrity life, and people in his hometown really cheer him almost nonstop. Heck, even a lot of kids cheer for him nonstop, especially when he starts retraining again. A group of kids chase him, and that group gets bigger and bigger once he gets to the stairs, and he's cheered on. Another great epic shot moment there. He's still an underdog, but he's always still special to all the people that watched him on TV. In the original, he was all about boxing, and this one, you have to see Rocky actually trying to start a new life. And it makes for an even more interesting fish out of water scenario. We all know eventually he's going to have to go back to the ring, but Peter Stallone really shows Rocky trying to start that new life and sees he can't really do the life in boxing. It's all he has, so it really keeps guessing as to how he'll adjust. So after Rocky recovers, gets out of the hospital, he now has benefits of celebrity status. Right there. And an agent sees Rocky as a potential endorsement and gold mine, and his son wealth encourages him to propose to Adrian. Right there. She happily accepts and marries a small ceremony. And of course, after that, on the other hand, Rocky also does buy things he never got to have in his life, like this car, or this jacket, or a watch, or even a new house, and finally moving out of his cramped apartments. Right there. That's stuff a lot of people do when they get celebrities' wealth status. So his wife does kind of complain, dropped it. Well, all right. His wife does kind of complain that some of the things may be a little expensive and might come, and it does lead to some problems later on. But to be fair, this is kind of a realistic scenario for anybody that achieves status they never had in their life. Of course, somebody would do a realistic thing like actually buy things they never got to have with their status. That's what anybody would do. It's actually realistic, and I like that. And I kind of like that Stallone actually added that to the character, because he was pretty much full on broke most of the time. And so these are things Rocky obviously wanted for his whole life, and he's finally getting to have this status. So I really like they put that in this character here, and it actually works perfectly well. Meanwhile, Apollo gets fueled by hate mail, claiming he's fixed the fight in order to protect his reign as champ, becomes obsessed with the idea that a rematch is the only way to discredit Rocky's performance, and determined to rectify his boxing career's only blemish. And Apollo demands his team do whatever necessary to goad Rocky out of retirement, and pleads with his friend and trainer Tony Evers, and Rocky's ability to absorb punishment is too dangerous for his chance to defend the title a second time. Alright, I'll just add some sparkling water to be fresh doing this review. Now, Rocky at first, though, is unaffected by Apollo's smear campaign, but unfortunately, because he's unable to complete the ad, he gets fired. The boss pretty much acts like a prick of Rocky's ability, and he has limited education, and it leads him into financial problems because no one will hire him because of his lack of experience. He tries to work in a meat shop, and even that doesn't last a day. So unfortunately, Rocky goes through even more hardships. He may have gotten celebrity status, but now he's kind of has to go through even more hardships trying to start a new life. It turns out even when he tries to escape boxing, he can't escape boxing. Boxing's all he really has now at this rate. Rocky then visits Mickey Goldmill, his trainer and manager, as Jim to talk about the possibility of facing Apollo, though Mickey doesn't want to because he's worried about Rocky's health and doesn't want Rocky to endanger himself. Though Adrian confronts Rocky about the danger of returning to boxing and reminds him about what will happen to his eyesight, but he knows he's got no other option. He's tried every way he could to escape boxing, but now, because he's ran into disability and he's ran to attempt to read, he's got to go back to boxing. And fighting's all he knows. Adrian then gives in, but she announces she's not going to support him at all. Stallone, not just as writer and director, also does want to get another Oscar-worthy performance as Rocky here. His chemistry with Adrian is still superb as it was in the first, even more superb this time around. They truly come to own with these characters, and they step out as perfect leads to these films. The movie holds attention, it brings emotion, and the ending keeps you at the edge of the seat. Especially, and it gets you teary-eyed filled once he wins that fight. Once again, like the first film did. It's a rematch of the legendary fight that is perfectly filmed, and it can be perfectly watched after the whole payoff. These movies simply do not go one without the other. These movies are honestly better when you watch them kind of back to back as one entirely big 3-hour boxing film. Or 4-hour boxing film, or whatever. Either 3 or 4 hour, but they're perfectly better watched back to back, as they're entirely one entire movie. It would be kind of better that way. In a way, like Godfather Parts 1 and 2, Alien and Aliens. All of Halloween and Halloween 2. They're all a double feature. They have one thing in common with Rocky 1 and 2. They work as one entire back-to-back double feature. The train launches in the final fight are also just as great as they were in the first movie. Especially when the kids join Rocky on the run. That's a perfect crowd cheering moment and perfect adrenaline kicking moment. It shows that even Rocky's inspired as an idol and hero to youngsters too. Right there, that's always a perfect smile on the face every time I watch that bit. Right here, and they managed to make also managed to make the montage even more epic than it already was in the first movie. So I really like that. Heck, you even see Rocky's even willing to kind of hang out with a few kids in his neighborhood and. And yeah, as I said, writer and director, because he not only stars in the film, he actually wrote and directed for the first time. And this would not be the only time he did this. He would later, did he direct Balboa? Let's see. Did he direct Balboa? Yeah. My DVDs are almost falling out. No. Stay on there, you stubborn things. He also did direct Rocky Balboa. He also would direct he also would direct the Expendables. The first one anyways. He also directed Rambo 4. So he would actually direct a few sequels in his franchise. And guess what, people? Ironically, they have one thing in common. The sequels he directs are some of the best of the franchises he's involved. Rambo 4 is the best Rambo sequel. Rocky 2 is the best Rocky sequel. He also directed Rocky Balboa, which is also good. Not as good as this, though. I still think this is better. But Balboa is still good. He did direct that as well. And he also direct those. He did direct the Saturday Night Fever sequel that, wasn't so great, but to be fair, I don't think that movie's really canon. But whatever. Stallone really brings more warmth to his story in the director's chair. He does slow it down a bit, but it's for more personal reasons. He's not trying to outdo the first one. He's trying to actually continue the tale that started in the first one. Respect for both the audience and the characters. And also, Apollo Creed isn't just wheeled out back as a villain. The late Carl Weathers really portrayed a man tormented not by defeat, but by wounded pride and negative critics. Who can't just accept one flaw of their idol. He's not evil or vengeful. He's just confused and mad. He wants to prove his critics wrong. And he actually has respect for Rocky. And after this movie, they would actually form a friendship in the rest of the series. He wants to regain control and prove himself he's still the best. And Weathers delivers this very well. It's not unnecessary bravado, but also very quiet intensity. So Rocky and Mickey eventually do begin their training. Rocky's also unfocused because of Adrian's disapproval, and then Polly is able to confront his sister about not supporting her husband when she goes back to work at the pet shop. And yeah, this does kind of make sense because, to be fair, Adrian should know that Rocky couldn't find any other job. He had no other experience. So the boxing was the only thing he had left. So I can see why Paulie would be furious at Adrian for not supporting Rocky's decision. But then, well, at the same time, Adrian not supporting makes sense is because, well, she is kind of scared for Rocky's life because she's scared Rocky could go blind, as the doctors kind of noted about him returning to the ring. But then Adrian faints during a confrontation, she ends up in the hospital, and then goes in labor. And, well, Rocky's son is born, healthy and well. But Adrian then falls in a coma, and you get some Oscar-worthy bits here where Rocky is blaming himself for what happened, and whenever he visits her in the hospital and is never leaving her bedside until she wakes up, is not going to go see his new baby until the baby can be together with his actual mom. And then eventually, you even get another Oscar-worthy bit in Stallone's performance when Adrian wakes up from her coma, finds Rocky by her bedside, and the couple is shown with their new son, and they name him Robert. Adrian gives her blessing to the rematch, and Rocky then starts getting to shape for the fight. And this is such an amazing moment right there. And you get another train montage. You get the train montage again when even the neighborhood kids see Rocky now finally doing his runs, or even the train people are seeing him do his runs. They're all praising, they're all cheering for him. And when the kids run after him, the group is getting bigger and bigger. The more he passes by, all the way up to the stairs, to the point where it's pretty much an whole entire mob of them running with him, right there, and all cheering him on. Now that's even more epic, just as epic as the montage in the first film was. Right there, I'm like easily. That's what I think. Then it comes to Thanksgiving, where the night of the match happens, and Apollo makes a goal of beating Rocky in no more than 2 rounds to prove the first match was a fluke. But unlike the first fight, though, Apollo trained heavily to protect his vulnerable eye, and Rocky opts to fight right-handed rather than his natural southpaw, but also kind of leaves a disadvantage. And he gets knocked down twice by Creed and outclassed for much of the fight. And going to the 15th and final round, Creed is well ahead on points and only has to stay away from Balboa to win the fight by decision. Creed wants to win, though, and knock out in order to erase any doubts about his superiority, and ignores Duke's pleas to stay back and fight from distance. And the film, including this whole sequence, flows generally well. There's space, there's pauses, there's silences. They don't too much slow things down during the finale. They make you feel more alive. Rocky 2 is not really trying to be another blockbuster, neither was the first film. It tells a story how hard it is to grow up and everything around you is falling apart. How important it is to not lose yourself, even if you've already been to the top. And the music is also really great. The soundtrack is in the first part still magnificently well. Frank Stallone and Bill Conti still make great songs here and give the film extra emotion. And like the world of boxing is perfectly metaphorical for the struggles of life here, and the economic difficulties that strike people who want to escape boxing and goodwill, despite everything they can't escape their past, especially if they don't have much of an education, and the value of the heart and the mind. Once again, to stay strong to this, Rocky 2 does offer everything well. Anybody could ask for an epilogue-style sequel. A film that stays true to the original, offers new elements along the way. It advances the story and adds an extra layer of depth to complex characters. This is around the year 1979, when the new Hollywood movement was coming to an end, and the age of the blockbuster had begun. This was a year for movies when we were getting stuff like Alien. We were about to lead into stuff back then, Star Wars in 1977, 2 years before this, had kickstarted the way of blockbusters. Then it would continue on with Alien. It would then continue on the next year with 1980s beginning with films like The Empire Strikes Back, The Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T. He even had this series continue on in the 80s with 3 and 4. Then you would eventually have First Blood and the Rambo movies, which were all blockbusters of the 80s. They continue on from sly success. Even plenty of horror franchises and stuff. RoboCop, The Terminator, Aliens, the sequel to Alien, Return of the Jedi even. The last both the Indiana Jones sequels, the Goonies. This was pretty much starting off the next most epic era for films. Right there. Advancing this easily. So, now we get on with the finale of the movie. So, once there, we get to the final round, and Rocky decides to go back his natural stance and is able to unleash a series of counter punches on Apollo Creed. Then eventually, both men do get exhausted once again, and they trade punches till Rocky is able to gain the upper hand and knock Creed down. And the blow causes Rocky to also lose his balance and fall at the same time. And both men struggle to regain their feet. But Rocky's able to will himself up at the count of 9, and Creed, though, collapses from exhaustion, unable to fight anymore. And so Rocky gets the win by knockout, and he becomes a new heavyweight champion right there. And then, of course, it ends with Rocky getting this impassioned speech to the crowd and holds the belt over his head with a message for Adrian, who's watching the fight on television, and even gives another Oscar-worthy speech to close out the movie, yelling, "Yo, Adrian, I did it!" And Adrian's watching the fight on TV, and that's how it all ends. That is how Rocky 2 ends. Rocky has now won the fight, really won the fight, while he almost won. He didn't really in Rocky 1, but now that they finally had a proper rematch, Rocky has finally won, has finally completed his character development that started the first film, and pretty much has now become the character you see for the rest of the films. Has finally achieved his status as heavyweight champion, and of course, right there, him and Adrian have reconciled, and now they have a son. It's a perfect ending right there. A perfect ending to the entire first film's story. Now, this would not be the end of Rocky because there would be more to come. And yeah, sure, maybe they weren't, sure, maybe 3 and 4 aren't as great as Rocky 1 and 2, or 3, 4, and 6 weren't as great as Rocky 1 and 2, but they were still good. They were still actually good ways to continue on the legacy of Rocky. Right there, and pretty much. But 1 and 2 always still be the strongest 2 of the series. Alright, so now do I have any bad qualities with the film? Sure, yeah, because this one is a slight step down from the first. Now, the Gonna Fly Now song, not really the same as it is in the first film. It's not really sung by the same people, so it just feels a little less strong. And this song is only used when Rocky's running, like, not when he's doing the other training. And the song Go in the Distance, outside the running, is also still fine. And the fight at the end of the film, still epic, but it's maybe not quite as epic as the fight in the first one was. Because it's kind of just really Rocky getting pounded relentlessly and having to overcome a superior athlete. Unlike the first one, where it's kind of more of an even fight for the most part. And, well, to be fair, a part of me kind of wishes Adrian was in the audience, not really watching the fight on TV. We do see her watch it on TV, but I kind of wish she was actually kind of there in person, you know? And that's what I think. I feel like Paulie could have played a bit more in the film as well. But other than those, I think Rocky 2 to me is still the best of the sequels, and I would say this film easily deserves a watch if you want to see the great epilogue to it and the closeout to the first film's story. So in the end, I would say Rocky 2 is also worth a watch and buy for your collection for sure, no doubt, if you love the first film and want to see the other half of the first film. Anyways, that's it for my review of Rocky 2, and if you want to rank Rocky 2, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you are ready to see Rocky's rematch with Creed and see the perfect epilogue to close out the first story, then would totally watch and buy Rocky 2 for your collection for sure, no doubt. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Rocky 2, I'm going to give Rocky 2 a 9 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. Well, time to put you back. Wraps up my review for Rocky 2. So, our next film we're going to be checking out is easily, now we're on to the more shorter ones. Whereas this next one would also be directed by Stallone. Oh wait, now I can't believe I forgot about this. Apparently Stallone actually directed the next 2 movies that would come after this as well, before returning for Rocky Balboa. So, yeah. I'll put 4 back because we're not reviewing 4 yet. We gotta review the one that comes before 4 first. But, so our next review is going to be for Rocky 3, the next film, and the first Rocky film of the 80s, and technically speaking, the sequel that's set after the entire two-parter first film. So, and now we get to experience more of Rocky's even bigger celebrity status in that one, and the challenges he would have to face in that film. Yeah, that's the next review for the series. So, I want to know in the comments down below what you guys think about Rocky 2, whether you guys think the ones after this are better, and this is one of the weaker ones, or whether you like this film as much as I do. And until then, guys, that will be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.